People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, even good night, wherever you are. I'm Abs of October Red, and look who I've got with me today. Look who is here. It's Mr. Big, Mr. Frank Warren himself. Thanks for joining us, Frank.
It's a pleasure, my darling. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Frank, I know that we're pushed on time because you are a busy man and you're in demand. So yeah, I'd like to get down to it. But Frank, you know me, I try not to cause any issues with our, a
God, you
conversation.
cause issues. Don't worry.
But
Let's go.
I'd like us to get to know Mr. Warren himself, his mind, the way it works. And one of the things that I want to talk about, and I know it is business, it's how you build your fighters, Frank. It's how you eye them up, how you spot them before they come and sign with you, and what makes you look for a particular fighter. And then we can talk about obviously how you build them.
What do I look for? Well, I'm lucky to be in a position, or Queensberry is, where anybody's turning pro. Most guys come to see us and talk to us. And also, we do look for developing young talent, as we did with names I can bring to the fore at the moment, like Daniel Dubois, Moses Ituama, and Royston Barney Smith, amongst many others. And we sponsor them at a younger age whilst they're still amateurs, with a view to when they turn pro, that they come with Queensberry and start their journey, hopefully to winning world titles. As certainly has happened with Daniel.
When you say you sponsor them, does somebody put the feelers out in the gym, and then do you get behind them financially to help them? When you talk about sponsoring, what does that entail?
Well, we do financially sponsor them to help them on their journey as amateurs, and and we obviously got our ear to the ground, who's around, and we like to feel we're quite good at what we do, and I prefer fighters to sign pro when they're young, 18 years of age, because I like them to do their apprenticeship as a pro. I like to feel that we're in control of their matches rather than going into tournaments and training for tournaments and not knowing who they're going to fight, which makes a big difference. I remember when years and years ago when Amir Khan got to the finals of the Olympics and got the silver medal. He was Britain's team. He was the only fighter on the team at the time, and he signed with us. And what we did was to give him one more amateur fight before he turned pro, and we made that fight against Kinderland, who beat him in the finals. And I felt if he'd been training for one fighter, that it would have been a different result, because the last round of that fight, he showed a lot of grit and courage, and I felt had he been training for that specific style rather than for a tournament, he'd beat him. So we brought him over, and that's exactly what he did. And Kinderland was one of the most decorated amateurs, great amateur, and that was his last amateur fight. So, that's my sort of rationale behind that. I don't want to ruin Britain's Olympic teams or whatever, and they're quite successful. But if you're going to make a living out of it, it seems to me, that's a great way to start your career. But then again, you can go and win a gold medal and improve your value as a signing value. So it's the fighter's choice. But for me, from our side of the table, I like to get involved at an early stage with them.
I've never even looked at it like that. And I guess that's why you're the Hall of Fame promoter and I'm sat here speaking to you about it. It's an interesting point of view because I've heard, throughout the years that sometimes you can stay as an amateur fighter for too long. Sometimes the successes can come from those that have had little to no amateur background. So that kind of fits in with that narrative and where you can really see that talent and grow them into champions.
It does. I mean, but there's another side of it. You could also look at it another way that, not everybody becomes a man at the same age, or a mature woman in these days at the same age, as far as their strength's concerned. So it may take a certain amount of time. Other guys, they can come into it and adapt very quickly. Like Ricky Hatton was 18 when he signed pro with me. He was a young lad as well when he signed pro. So, But I do like to look at that side of it. I'm a big believer in it. However, obviously there's guys who've turned pro later in life and or in their amateur career and have done as well, have done extremely well. But it's a formula that I like to think most of the time works for us.
That is really interesting to see, and obviously, you've done something similar. Moses Azatuma is obviously, the one that really stands out. But we saw you kind of work with this blueprint. I know you've gone far back as Ricky Hatton, but obviously I wasn't watching boxing in that detail when you signed him. But I remember when you signed Daniel Dubois, and he had this blueprint, and he's gone on. He's had a couple of losses. He's on he's on a lovely run. We've seen what he's done in his last 3 fights now.
Yeah.
But then we have Moses Atuma, and it's like Daniel Dubois was sort of like a blueprint, and then Moses Atuma is following a similar one, but maybe he's been not more carefully matched, but being carefully managed, because there's so much rush around what are we going to do with him? When's he going to become a world champion? And it's like sometimes you just got to calm down a bit and just have a look at the horizon, Frank. But I don't know, your words.
Well, for me, it's not about, I don't care what anybody thinks. What I mean by that, I don't care the pressure or whatever. The end of the day, it's going to be down to me as the promoter and their managers and trainers. I mean, we work collaboratively to put all our experience and hopefully our knowledge of the sport and combine it and do the best thing for the particular fighter. And it's not always, I'm probably bore people in saying it, and I do use the expression a lot. This is not a 100-meter race. This is a marathon, and it's about having a career. Anybody can make a world title fight. You got to win the world title, and after you've won it, you got to defend it. And if you're defending it, you're defending it against world-class fighters. So you got to be ready for that. It's not just about oh look, I've won the world title. And I clever. It's about hanging on to that title, and especially if you're a young man, you've got a long career ahead of you. So we look at all the different aspects of it, and Moses has really done well, extremely well. He's quite rounded for his age. He's got great skills as a boxer. He's got great composure. Most young guys, especially if they're punchers, they get someone in trouble, but you see them in their sort of in the sort of haste to finish a fight, they can fall over, they don't get their distance right, but he measures these punches. He's, as I say, his composure's brilliant and does a job. But I still think he's going to get stronger because he's only turned 20 a couple of weeks ago. He'll get stronger physically, and the stronger he gets, the more of a problem he's going to be for everybody.
But it's an exciting. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a very exciting. Sorry, jumped to myself there. He's a very exciting fighter, and people like seeing these big guys, and they like seeing them dispatching people. That's what they like. That's the facts of matter. It's not sometimes not about the art of boxing. It's in there, get in there, get in the ring and do the job and do it in exciting fashion. I mean, we all looked at Mike Tyson when he was younger, and what a wrecking machine he was. But his career, at a very young age, all fell apart. He couldn't handle it. He started doing stupid things and silly things and a lot of things outside the ring that I'm aware of. Lots of stupid stuff, and he wound up with no career. And I don't think, as much as he was exciting and we all talk about him, he didn't fulfil his legacy, which he should have done. And that can happen. And as I say, all boxers, like most sportsmen, successful sportsmen, but with boxing, it's a lot different than any other sport because you're getting punched in the head, and one fight can change your whole career. You lose it, can you come back? Some can, some can't. It determines the type of person they are. But you have to at all times know and be aware you're giving up your youth. You've got to be dedicated. Talent gets you to a certain place. There's lots of talented people in boxing, real talent. I mean, I can think of some names. I'm not going to mention them at the moment, but real fighters who were so talented, and I thought they were going to do the business, but they didn't because they didn't have the dedication. They didn't put the hard work in at the end. And if you don't do that, you haven't got a career. forget about it, because talent gets you so far, and then that's it. And you don't put the hard work in the gym, the sacrifices, it just won't happen.
So when you're molding a fighter, because this is what you're doing, you're strategically placing them on the chessboard to become world champions and to stay being world champions for obviously as long as possible. How do you then collaborate? You mentioned about collaborations with management teams. Oh, he's gone. I've lost him.
I'm
Oh,
here.
he's back. How do you then make sure the fighter stays on that path? You mentioned the collaborative working with the trainers, the managers, to ensure that they are dedicating, that they are living the life, Frank, because when the money hits the bank, it's easy to get complacent, right?
That's exactly right. But I mean, that's very difficult for us to do, or me to do as a promoter, because I don't see the fighter on a day-to-day basis. I'm not in the gym with him. That's his trainer. The manager is managing him. So that's their role, to not just be negotiating person or just training the fighter, is obviously to give them advice, especially if you're seeing them every day. I mean, that's why I've got a big thing about, with his drug taking, these PEDs and whether I can't believe that any trainer worth his salt doesn't know if one of these boxers is taking PEDs.
Educate a fool then. They're in the gym and you're saying, well, how does the trainer not know?
Well,
Educate a fool, Frank.
I mean, most fighters, you're gonna look, you're gonna be looking at you're as a trainer, you're gonna be watching what they're eating. You'd be advising them on their diet. That's your job. That's your role. You're in control of them. You're supposed to be putting them on the scales every day, weighing them before they train, weighing them afterwards. The whole lifestyle. And obviously, you look at a lot of fighters who start taking or dealing with PEDs, their shape changes dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
So
the
if
evidence is there.
so I find it hard to believe that any trainer worth his salt wouldn't notice that.
So when that information like you said, you're not with them every day, you're not in the gym with them every day, and there has to be accountability of the fighters, accountability of the teams that are
And
around them.
accountability of the promoters as well, because it's our job to, at the end of the day, it's our job. We're the ones who are out there, basically banging the drum for these guys. So there's a lot of trust involved. There's a lot of trust on all sides. They trust me, I trust them, and you hope that we all play the game with each other. And if you don't, it's never going to work. It just will not work at the end of the day. There'll come a time when it all falls apart.
So when that happens and that trust is broken, Frank, like you said, there's got to be that trust because you're putting your name on the line, your brand on the line. So having people test positive under your banner, there's an issue there for you as a promotional company. So what kind of things do you put into place? What are the rules of Frank Warren? I know you're very close and you do adhere to the practices of the British Boxing Board of Control. I've heard you talk recently about that. So you're kind of like your party line on that.
Well, my party line is very simple. If you test positive, then and you have an A sample and a B sample, the boxer retains the B sample. He can have that tested to ensure that the A sample hadn't been tampered with or was contaminated. But if that sample tests positive as well, he has to explain what it's doing in his system. And if it is in his system, who give it to him? Who advised him to take it? Because sometimes, and there has been boxers who have taken stuff, but they were advised to do it by sometimes professional people. And if they're being advised to take it, then those people should be held accountable.
And I
So,
think sorry,
sorry, go
go
on.
on, Frank.
No, so I'm just saying and that to me is part of the course. At the end of the day, what happens with these situations? It's all down to the boxer, and most of them are young guys. They're young kids. What do they know about medications? They know nothing. But who's ever give it to them must know something about it. You can't go and buy them in the chemist. I mean, there
No,
is
because they're
stuff that you
controlled
can buy in the
substances.
chemist
Mm.
that's in, your steroids are in certain like decongestants and things like that,
Yep.
which are on the banned list. But that's why we have a banned list, and obviously every trainer should be aware of what's on the banned list. But having said all of that, PEDs are dangerous. They're dangerous to the boxer's health, their long-term health, and we all collectively as sports should be working hard to eradicate their use. Or the alternative is if it carries on as it has carried on, and I hope it's changed a bit now. Or the alternative is you just celebrate it, get on with it. I mean, I don't like that. I don't
Yeah,
like that. But you've got a fighter. You've got two fighters. There's two fighters in the ring. If one of them's been cheating, taking these drugs, and the other one hasn't, that's not that. That is obviously is not a level playing field. It's dangerous. It's a sport. This is a sport where they're punching each other, and the other side of it is you as someone as a manager or the trainer of the opponent. He has to worry about where he's at with his fight. And what I didn't like with some of this stuff was that people were being advised when people were tested positive. I genuinely believe if you get tested positive, and unfortunately with this, it seems like you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent, which is not how it should be.
correct.
But if you are tested positive, then and you are down to fight, and there's something going on behind the scenes where obviously, and it has happened where boxers are fighting it, then the opponent must be made aware of that, and he must be able to make a decision. If, for example, he does have it in his system, but this is the reason why, and we're satisfied with that. But he's got it in your system. You have to be telling the opponent, getting in the ring with this guy is detrimental to you.
Yeah, having that informed choice is always important in
Correct.
decision
Absolutely.
making, and I get that. One of the things in regards to obviously the drug testing, Frank, is I think it would be better, and this is just me as an outsider, if we had one testing governing body, because I'm aware that sometimes something may fail on one bit of paper with one and not necessarily fail on the other, and that's where we have this like grey area where there's loopholes, where there's incidences where you can't really nail down, say, a ban or etc. But that's just my opinion, Frank.
Well, the problem you've got if you're making international fights is that
Yeah,
you're using UCAD test box supposed to text. They have random tests. If you're a British Boxing Board of Control boxer license holder, then you are subject to random tests. It can happen anytime. You have to report where your whereabouts at all times, so the testers can come to your home or wherever you are and test
yeah.
you. The idea of random tests is if you are cheating, you're going to get caught out. If you know they're coming 12 o'clock tomorrow morning, then obviously you dodge it. But if you've got international fights, a UCAD tester's not going to get on a plane and fly over, say, to America or Japan or wherever it may be. And that's why we use VADA. But VADA are not a disciplinary committee. VADA are,
Right.
all they do is test and report their findings of any banned substances to the boxer, the promoter,
Mhm.
and ultimately it goes in our case to UCAD. And then there's a determination where a boxer is then probably invariably, I should say, he's suspended pending the outcome of a hearing, and obviously, in part that includes him, if he wishes, because he doesn't have to, if he wishes, testing his B sample.
Ah, right. So that's actually, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just go to
No?
the hearing, accept the findings in the first place, and then that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's why I said educate a fool,
But,
Frank.
but, but if you're not testing your B sample, then if you would want the first thing is you want to do if you're worried about the contamination, you test your
You'd
B
appeal it.
sample.
Yeah, because there's potential for an appeal. Fair enough. I'm going to ask about your heavyweight stable before I let you go, Frank. One of the fighters that has done a lot in the heavyweight division as well is Fabio Wardley. I know you recently signed him. He had obviously that first round KO with Fraser Clark over in Riyadh. What's happening with Fabio? When can we see him back out again? You've got Lawrence Acott. You've got a beautiful mix of fighters, and you don't necessarily have to put them together. But I'd like to see Fabio Wardley out soon.
He will be out soon. We'll be making an announcement. In fact, there was a couple of meetings yesterday regarding Fabio, so we'll be making, I hope, an announcement sometime in the next week or so. And he's a very important fighter.
Mm,
It's a brilliant win that he's had. He's done marvelous for him. And I think he's a real good ambassador for
he is.
boxing. He carries himself very well. He's very articulate, and he's a lovely guy. And we're blessed with heavyweights. And Lawrence, he announced himself on the heavyweight
He
scene
did.
in real explosive fashion. There's no doubt about that. And I think, the fact, I don't know how he ever ever made that weight.
Yeah, it's
I
weird
really
to
don't
look
get
at,
it.
isn't
Won
it?
2 world title fights at that weight. You know, you
Frank,
don't
you
know.
keep disappearing.
Yes, yeah. But I don't know. I don't know how he made the weight, but he did do it, and he's done. You know, and he's now there now, so he's going to be in some big fights. And these guys will all invariably fight each other because the business will call for it, which is great. And it's not the end of the world for losers. You know, it's how you lose, and it's coming back. And obviously, we've seen that with Daniel.
Yeah, we definitely have. The one thing that I will say is I spoke to T. McCauley and I asked him, you know, is it third time lucky, you know, that you're signing with Queensberry? You've been through the promoters like hot dinners. And they said the thing is with yourself is that you're able to strategically help the fighters on a path, whether it's the WBO, WBA, WBC, whatever it is, you're able to align their career. There's like a clear focus, there's a clear roadmap. So they commended you for that because obviously he ended up being number 5 in one of the rankings. And obviously, you know, he's going to push forward and inherently end up fighting for another world title. So when I'm talking about Frank Warren's strategy, not just from the beginning, but it's getting your fighters into certain positions so they can become world champions.
Well, that's true. It's the Queensberry strategy, you know, and we're a team there. You know, my son George is the CEO there, who works very diligently behind the scenes. He does, you know, a lot that contributes towards the, you know, the success of the company. And even as a manager, my other son Francis does brilliantly with Moses, Sam Noakes, his brother, Sean, and many other fighters. They're very good at what they do, and they've got quite good heads on. Sorry about this. It keeps cutting out. They got good heads on their shoulders, and it all contributes to making it a success story. I hope, but at the end of only you can only do it with good fighters and people who
Yeah.
cooperate with you. There's no instant fix. It's hard work.
Not afraid of hard work. Where I had a statement, Queensberry put out a lovely statement, and this is before I go, regarding the conversation that I had with Ben Shalom in regards to Liam Cameron and Ben Whittaker getting it back on again. The fight that left a lot of questions in everyone's minds. Have you got any update in relation to that? And I'm sorry if you've answered this question several times before, but I've got to ask because you shouted out my channel and said, yeah, here's a lovely response in regards to Ben Shalom on October Red's channel. So I've got to ask about it, Frank.
No, as regarding that, we made an offer, a very good offer, and it was turned down. And an offer was made to Liam, which is nowhere near what we're paying him, and we are where we are. What I've suggested is just two respective companies put sealed envelopes, put them on the table, and the winner gets it.
Oh, I like that.
So do
A
I.
bit of old school.
And the fighters are like that as well. They do well from it.
Yeah, they definitely would. Listen, Frank, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've taken up much more of your time than initially. Look, he's gone again. But I just want to say a massive thank you. I'll see you fight week for Derek Chisora.
You certainly will. And we've got to do this more often.
Oh, definitely. And Frank, before you go, you know, if you do a Birmingham show, and I can take this out because you can, in fact, no, because I don't mind being told no. If you do a Birmingham show, would you let me commentate just on one of the fights, even if it's on the prelims? And then if I'm crap, you can just kick me off. I'll do it for free.
I'll tell you what you can do. That obviously couldn't be done on the TV channel that we work with, but we could probably do it on maybe do it on one of the Box Nation shows. So
Ooh,
we'll have a word with them and see what they say.
nice one. Listen, Frank, take it easy, and I'll definitely speak to you soon. Thank you for your time.
Have a lovely weekend. Bye, my
And
darling.
you take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.